Welcome to I Love My HBCU ? The podcast where we express our undeniable love for HBCUs, but where we are also not afraid to address a few tough questions. So, sit back, learn a little, love a lot, and rep your HBCU.
Wow. It's another year. It is 2025. Happy New Year to every single human being that is hearing the sound of my voice. This is yours truly, Tosin Richard of I Love My HBCU ? And we're keeping it in-house today at the top of the year. If you see this, guys, anyone that's not watching and only listening to us, the level of chocolateness that you guys would see on the screen right now, I just noticed it now, Julia. Like, our chocolate is popping.
No, literally.
So, Julia, those who are not in-house with us don't really know who you are. Tell the audience, who are you?
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Julia Fosah. I am a sophomore multimedia journalism major at Morgan State University. But with I Love My HBCU ? I am an intern. You might see me do a few little features here and there, and I'm also a GenerationNext Advocate.
I love it. What is it? Wait, okay. So I'm throwing the coals at you, like at the very beginning. What does it mean to be a Gen Next Advocate? And we shorten it in-house as Generation Next Advocate. What does that mean?
It's just, being a part of Gen Z and advocating for issues that, matter to us, whether it's from gun control, whether it's cybersecurity, just any issues that applies to us, we're going to advocate for it.
I love it. And your generation is vocal. Your generation is, whether or not you guys know what you're saying all the time, your generation
We're going to be heard. We're going to speak out.
You're going to be heard. You're going to speak up. And I do love the fact that we do have the initiative, Generation Next Thought Leaders Summit, Generation Next Thought Leaders, that has the Generation Next Advocates, that really emboldens you guys to just speak up and speak out for yourselves. Because as much as I tease you guys all the time and say, oh my gosh, they're going to speak, not all of you do. Not all of you do. So I am grateful for the Julias, for the Nayas, for I can rattle off a whole bunch of names. I am grateful for those of you who are exemplifying for others that we do need to get a little bit more passionate about the issues that matter to us. So, Julia, thank you for joining me on this very first episode of 2025. Okay, so I don't do New Year's resolutions anymore because I failed woefully at the ones that I tried to do. But out of curiosity, do you do any New Year's resolutions?
I do. Whether or not I follow them, completely different question. That's a completely different story, but we do set them, and by the end of the year, we reset them.
We reset them. I love the resetting. I love the resetting. So in public relations, there's this thing where you do ongoing research, whereby whatever might have informed why you started your strategic plan of action in the beginning, when you take a look and it's not really doing what it is you wanted it to do, you just go right back. There we go. There we go. So share with us, since you actually do set New Year's resolutions, share with us one that you're hoping to keep for at least most of the year.
Yes, so this year I'll be turning 20. So hopefully I can, sorry if you hear that, I live in the city. But
he lives in the city, guys. Okay.
But hopefully I can, step my foot more into my wellness, whether that's physical, mental, just overall, because my mom, she always tells me, like, your body is young, but it won't be young for long. The things you do now, you cannot do forever. So I'm going to step into that. Whether or not we continue to step into that, that's for us to figure out this year.
So it sounds like you're going to step into it. Your mother is number one, 1,000% accurate. And you're saying even if you don't keep it up, that's the one that I'm going to be here reminding you to reset every step of the way, because it's so important. And if you can get a handle of it now rather than later, it's going to help you so much more, so much later in life. Okay, let's see. So I think it is impossible for us not to delve into 2025 and what we hope for 2025, especially since this episode is going to be about Generation Next Thought Leaders Summit and the amazingness that we're putting together for 2025. It's going to be 2 days this time instead of 1 day. I'm excited about that. But before we go there, it's kind of impossible not to do a quick recap of 2024. Of
What a
faith.
year. What a year.
When I think about 2024, it's all the headlines that come to mind. And here's what I don't like. And this might be, you know what, I'm writing this down. This might be my New Year's resolution, even if not for 2025, since we're already here. I need to focus on more positive things
Yeah.
for 2025 and moving forward. Because when I thought about, okay, we've got to recap 2024, Julia, it's all these
There's
negative,
nothing good to say.
there's nothing, and I refuse to believe that in 365 days that there weren't some amazing things happening throughout the year. But as you're about to find out in a second, that's not what came to mind when I was putting this particular episode together. And I apologize. Listen, I apologize to everyone who is like, wow, come on, Tosin, you couldn't remember this, you can remember no, I couldn't.
There's too much of it. There's too much of it.
Listen. So before we go full throttle into a whole lot of other stuff, what's one big highlight? I'm going to call it a highlight. What's one big highlight for you in 2024?
Oh, there's not many of that, but
Okay.
I would say one big highlight is, so I go to school in Baltimore, Maryland, and I would say that with Maryland being a very blue state, we have a Black governor. Baltimore has a Black mayor, a Black senator. Maryland has a Black senator, and we have a Black attorney general. So I feel like, at least in the little Maryland bubble, we're turning around.
When you say we're turning around, so you said blue state, you said turning around, and you mentioned a whole lot of people that look like you and I. Now, it's I love my HBCU question mark. Most of us know that HBCU stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities. So we do celebrate all things Black. But what do you say to the person that says, is that what we're celebrating? The fact that it's all Black? Or are we celebrating that there's been progress for one group over another?
I would say that it's a mixture of both.
Okay.
Yes, we're celebrating that it's all Black, but also we need to celebrate more, groups being represented in these positions. Because are we ever going to see that all Hispanic state? Are we ever going to see that all Asian state? That an Asian president, Hispanic president? There's still groups that we need to hit, but for the wins that we can get, let's appreciate that, let's celebrate that, but also keep moving forward and pushing for more.
I like that. And I like the fact that you said all groups. We're going to talk about Blacks because we are Black, but I do like the fact that you said all groups. And it's important for me to state this because I'm reminded, accused consistently that, oh gosh, Tosin, it's always Black. Well, I'm Black. What else do you expect me to talk about, number one? But I do respect the fact that whether people realize it or not, it's not really Blackness that I'm talking about anyway. I am talking about representation. And I am talking about the fact that if you have a state, let's not even talk about the state. Let's talk about Baltimore City. We are located in Baltimore City. If you have a city whereby most of the residents are one particular race, but they're not led by that race, and they're not represented by that race, regardless of what the race is or which race it is, it could be seen as a little bit problematic because can you truly advocate for me if you can advocate for me if you're not me, you can, but can you truly advocate for me if you don't relate well to and with me? And that's the question mark there, right?
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you brought in representation more so than any particular race. Okay. She's like, man, you're starting this heavy. But before I really get heavy, because I'm going to go, I'm really going to go.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to share my highlights before I throw. I'm going to throw a rapid fire at you. You know, it's coming.
I'm ready for it.
It's coming. It's coming. But before I throw the rapid fire at you, my highlight. Anyone who's listened or listens to this podcast, you know that I am a proud college professor and administrator. And what I love about what I do are not those titles. You can actually bin those titles on any given day of the week. What I do, however, is work with young students like Julia Fosah and do every single thing I can to maximize their potential. Like, I live for that. It's my purpose in life. I'm not kidding. Even if I don't like you, I'm still going to make sure that you are on the right track. Having said that, my highlight for 2024, Julia, and I'm pausing for a second intentionally. I'm not a political person. Would you agree, Julia?
Yeah, you're really not. Yeah,
I'm really not. Thank you. And I like the way she said, yeah, you're really not. I love the way she said that. I love the way she said that. But many people hear me talking about civic engagement and politics. And my highlight for 2024 is hearing so many young Black students who this isn't a flash in the pan exercise for them. They are truly concerned about issues. They're not necessarily desiring to be elected officials. If that comes along the way, good for them. But they're not necessarily desiring that. But they are realizing that they can't keep saying, I can't stand politics. I don't like these politicians. They're all corrupt.
Yeah.
They can't keep putting politics to the side and then just going about their lives. They are beginning to accept and realize that everything is politics. The decisions that get made based on what taxes you're going to pay, where you're going to live, what you will afford or can afford down the road, all of it is so interdependent. So I'm excited that I get to hear so many of you having these conversations without having to deal with the quote unquote politics of it. You are concerned about the things that affect you and you want more of an active voice in those spaces. That's been my highlight for 2024. And I
want to add something on that.
Go ahead, please.
I think the reason why, my generation, we've been stepping more afoot, like putting our foot more into those pools is because for many of us, this election, the 2024 election was our first time voting. And I feel like that really just opened our eyes to the fact, many of us are in college. We just entered college, but by the end of the 2028, we'll be stepping into the working world with whatever president is elected in.
Yes.
And we're really seeing real time how our votes are changing policies, changing issues. So I feel like a lot of things from 2024 is just a wake up call, not just for our generation too, but for just multiple generations, different people, even people outside of the US. It's just like,
I love it. A, I love it. B, I want to see more of this in 2025. Sorry. Yes, we're in 2025. I want to see more of this in 2025. And I still trust you. And by you, I mean your generation. I trust that you guys are going to get some things right the same way my generation got some things right and my generation got some things wrong. And I want to support all the different ways that you guys are going to try to get things right for all of us, because it's going to affect all of us whether we like it or not. Literally. But I'm going to put a pin in it for 2 seconds. I'm really, really excited about this rapid fire, only because, listen, Julia's a brain, guys. If you guys don't know Julia, we know Julia. Julia's a brain. And I am ridiculously curious to hear the answers you're about to give me. Okay, so one of the producers, please put 67 seconds on the clock. Why am I so excited about this?
You're excited, I'm nervous.
Okay, Julia, let's do this. Whew. Describe the 2024 US presidential race in 3 words.
3 words. Crazy, dramatic, and honestly, cinematic.
Cinematic was a movie. Got
It
it.
literally was a movie, a comedy movie, a horror movie, a drama. It was all the
I love
movies.
it. You know what? You didn't know this, but one of the questions aligns with the response you just gave. So I'm going to go straight to it. Um, if the U.S. economy was a movie, song, or book, what would it be?
I want to go with a song. If the U.S. economy was a song, I would do One Way or Another.
One way or another. Who sings that?
It's been like taken and covered, but I'm a 2005 baby. I know the One Direction version, so
One Direction.
I
Okay,
know that
one way or
version.
another. Okay, I'll take it. You're president for a day, and you get to select who runs the Department of Education, and we have to live with it. Who would you select? Could be anybody. Who would you select to run the Department of Education?
I would select Amanda Goldberg. Is that her name?
Amanda Goldberg. I don't know who that is.
Or is it Goldman?
Who? Tell me who she is.
She's that girl who did the speech at one of
Oh, yes.
I know her name's Amanda, but I couldn't tell you her last name.
Why do both of us not know her name?
But we know what we're talking about.
We know what we're talking about. You do realize that when this comes out, they're going to
I
slam
know.
us. Like,
Literally,
how could they not know?
It's Amanda G. Amanda G.
Okay. One of the producers, please tell us who she is before we're done so that we don't embarrass ourselves like crazy. College degree or trade school?
Overall trade school, but it depends what degree.
Overall trade school. It depends. I love it. Ooh, Julia, affordable health care or be a multimillionaire?
Affordable health care.
Affordable health care.
We don't need any more millionaires, billionaires. Cut it. Just cut it.
Affordable health care. Affordable health care. Ban all assault weapons or arm every household with a gun.
Ban all assault weapons.
Ban assault.
Yeah.
Julia, I'm not clapping for your answers. They're your answers. I'm clapping for you. You did not pass on any one of the rapid fire questions. So thank you for that.
Wait, pass is an option?
Of course. Pass is always an option. Pass is always an option. Only one guest, though, has ever passed. Only one guest has ever passed. Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. She passed on one of the questions that I asked. And hey, pass is always an option. Listen, I'm not going to force you to answer something you don't want to answer. No.
But Dr. Tosin, I do have 2 questions for you.
Let's do this.
It's not 60 seconds, but it's just 2 questions.
Okay. Oh, God.
Okay. So, out of the 4 topics that are going to be discussed at the summit. So it's gun control, education, U.S. economy, and healthcare. Which one do you think right now needs the most reform?
Oh, God, that's not fair.
She wasn't expecting this, guys.
No, I wasn't. She didn't tell me she was going to do this. A, she didn't tell me she was going to do this. B, I can only pick one. I can only pick one. Ooh. I'm going to go with gun control. I'm going to go with gun control. It's been pervasive over the last, decades in the US. If I'm not alive, I can't get an education. If I'm not alive, who cares about healthcare? If I'm not alive, okay, I don't have to suffer a horrible economy. I'm going with gun control. Yeah.
And then
all right, that was the first one.
My next question is, what topic or issue do you wish would have been discussed at the summit.
So can I be Tosin for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
And thankfully this is yours was timed. Mine isn't timed. So I'm going to be Tosin for 2 seconds and explain to anyone listening to us, and especially those who are still thinking about coming to the summit, how we selected or how the 4 panels were selected. So in October of 2024, we have a focus group of several different college students in the Maryland area. We are based in Maryland. So we do a call out, and those who are able to join us, there was one virtual focus group that was people from all over the country, but then the second one was only those who could physically come. There were, if I'm not mistaken, over 41 topics that were thrown into the focus group that people thought we really, really care about this. So after we do the focus groups, what we do is we mind map all of the topics and group them together. So, for example, mental health was a big one, but so was women's health. And so, the more we talked about it, we realized that no one felt strongly about one portion of health over another, but felt strongly about the manner in which healthcare in and of itself was being handled. So we were able to drill down the 40 something topics to 9 topics.
Yeah.
We sent the 9 topics out to whoever had a college email address, literally, and we were open to it not just being answered by Black students. So it's whoever had a college email address. We sent it out. We got over 300 and something responses, which, let me tell you, Julia, getting over 300 responses from your generation is a plus. You guys
No,
do
literally,
not
we
like
don't
to
like to
respond.
reply.
Thank you. You guys don't like to reply to anything. So I was very grateful when I saw, wait, hold on, they're responding. They're responding to us. So we sent it out over 300 and something, and the biggest numbers, and I don't want to be disingenuous. I'm not going to tell you which one had the most because I don't recall it, but it was top 4 easily, the ones that you just listed: gun violence, healthcare, education, and US economy. Now I get to answer your question. So I wanted to tell people how we came about this. It wasn't random. It is purely everything with the Generation Next Thought Leaders Summit is engineered by the students, and I love that. There was one that came up consistently, but didn't get enough pull, which was surprising to me, and that's AI. That's the one I would have wanted, or I'm curious to see how would that be handled by a panel of students and an expert moderator challenging students on their use, their understanding, their vision of artificial intelligence. That's the one that I'm like, how did that not make it to the top 4? But we've got to go by the numbers, and based on the numbers, it did not make it to the top 4. So yeah, that's the one I would have loved to see is AI.
2026 summit, I feel like AI might be on it.
It's surprising each time, because this is 2025 is year 2 for us. It's surprising it didn't make it to the top 4 for 2024, and now 2025 it still didn't make it to the top 4. I would love to see it make it to the top 4 in 2026. It is showing up in every area of our lives. It's been there in our lives for the last few decades. It's just not, it just wasn't in our faces the way it's in our faces now. So I'd love to see it. I'm going to throw that question back at you. I'm going to throw that question back because it's a good question.
Yeah.
What topic would you have loved to see that didn't make it to the top 4?
I believe this was in the summit for 2024, but immigration.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
maybe it's just because like where like my home is, we have a lot of immigrants. It's a very diverse community, so the topic of immigration it hits home. But yeah.
I have a feeling immigration is going to come back around. Immigration in the United States of America is such a thing, and it can be polarizing.
Yeah.
depending on who it is that you're talking to. And you're right, it was one of the topics for 2024, and it was hotly debated. Um, so if you weren't there, you missed it. But it was hotly debated, and I think it's going to come back around again. I was about to go into a whole immigration conversation, but that's not what this particular podcast is about. So I'm not going to go there because I've got a lot of thoughts, and I'm always cautious not to um, impose my thoughts on the conversation when it comes to our topic. So zipping it, Tosin. Okay. All right. Julia, as you know, because you're working on it, Gen Next Summit is a gathering of mostly, and I'm going to say mostly Black college students because we are open to more than just Black college students. But anyone coming, understand that the largest population you're going to find there is Black because that is who we are catering to. But we are absolutely open. Please hear me say this again. We're absolutely open to more than just Black students in the room. But it is a gathering of Black college students who discourse on crowdsourced, and I just told you how we got these topics. So, crowdsourced national topics that matter to them. Why do you think a summit like this is even necessary?
I feel like, well, I'm so happy to be a part of this summit, but I feel like there should be summits for every community like this because, well, let's just focus on I Love My HBCU question mark.
Okay.
Black voices need to be heard, point blank, period. And Gen Z voices need to be heard. So the fact that there is a place designated for, Black students who maybe they don't want to go into politics, but they're so passionate about a specific issue and they want to see change done, and they don't know how to get that change done. The fact that they're in a controlled environment where politicians, where people with nonprofit organizations are able to sit down and listen and hear like a first person account from a Black student telling them this is the issue, this is how it probably affected me, this is how it's affecting the next person, what's going to get done, here are things that I think that need to be done, and they can take this back and go to their committee meetings, their cabinet meetings, whatever meetings they have, and address those issues. I feel like it's such a beautiful space to be in, and I feel like we need this in like LGBTQ platforms, and like we said earlier, representation. We just need this in every single different community.
I love the fact that you are and I think this is indicative of your generation. Your generation never wants to leave anybody out. That's at least the ones of you that I speak to. You don't want to leave anybody out. You want to make sure that as many of you have your safe spaces where you can be yourselves. And I appreciate that you denote that as a value of the Generation Next Thought Leaders Summit. And while we're on the subject of being heard, because those if you weren't there in 2024, you don't know that this isn't just a panel of experts talking. The Julias of the world are the experts talking, and I find that to be extremely important. um and I find that important because what I was told before we put this together is you guys always act as if you know more than we do all the time, and you might, but why don't you also want to hear what we have to say? And to your point, Julia, I do hope it's not going to be Tosin, because this is what Tosin is passionate about. But I do hope that we eventually serve as an inspiration for other groups to create different platforms whereby it's let's turn the symposium model on its head. Yes, there are spaces or there are times when it is the subject matter expert's voice that you need to hear, but we hear them a lot. There's got to be spaces whereby it is the person who's having the lived experience that we want to hear from.
Yeah.
And the lived experience in these situations are the youth who are transitioning through college and are going to graduate someday and be those elected officials, be the policymakers who make a change. I want to hear how they are going to approach things. And it has got to be a little bit more than, well, they don't know how to do it yet. Number one, if we don't listen to them, how will we know whether or not they know how to do it yet?
Yeah.
But number two, who's to say that the way we're doing it is the way you should do it when you get in those offices? And that irritates me when I hear, well, but they don't know how to do the blah 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 on policy, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Like,
okay.
we're 19. I would hope we don't know how to do that.
A, I would hope they don't know how to do that. B, how well has it been working so far? How well has it been working so far? So, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay for things to change. And listen, 2024, what did you say? You said crazy, dramatic, cinematic for the presidential race. So let me throw this at you. Donald Trump is our president.
He is.
And in a couple of weeks or so, January 20th, he's getting inaugurated, whether anybody likes it or not. And whether anybody likes it or not, he didn't win by a little bit, guys. He won. He won. It was myself and my siblings, he won handedly is what we say, right? Handedly. No room for discussion here. Maybe a slightly unfair question to ask you, Julia, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why do you think that is? Why do you think all the things that we've all been talking about over the last however many years, the 2024 election comes around, we have two people running. One was, I hope I'm accurate in saying, a convicted felon at the time. And that's who we as a nation, maybe not individual, maybe not you, maybe not me, maybe you, maybe me, I don't know. We're not putting our vote out there right now. But as a nation, that's who we've voted in. Why do you think this was possible?
I feel like if anybody here, I feel like everybody should take the time and watch both sides, both conventions, because I feel like it's our duty as voters to educate ourselves on both sides. You can say you're Democrat, but just in the case that a Republican does win, as we've seen just happen, you should know what they're about to do when they get into office. And based on watching both, I feel like Kamala, how do I word this? Kamala, she did good for joining midway through an election. She did good. She pulled out all the points that I didn't even know that she was going to pull out. Like, she really did good. But Trump is a car salesman. He will say certain things that will draw in certain people. And a lot of people already they're kind of hesitant to vote for Kamala. And Trump brought those people in. And also, another big thing, Gen Z, we, like Generation Z, we wanted these politicians to address what they were going to do with Palestine, Israel, like what they're going to do with that. And a lot of us did not like or appreciate the answer that went with the Democrats. Whatever Kamala said, we did not like that. So I would say it wasn't more so that there was initially Kamala voters going to vote for Trump. They voted third party as a protest. I'm not Republican. I'm not Democratic. We're going to find another way to put our vote in. If you look at Jill Stein, but if you look at the numbers, let's just look at the numbers. If those numbers would have went to Kamala, this would have been a completely different race. It would have been what they were saying in the predictions, that close. But as we can see, it was just state after state going to Trump. So I feel like that's really the reason why she lost the race. Just a lot of people voted third party. She was definitely qualified. She checked all the boxes. She did what she had to do. But I think that there's just certain things that people couldn't negotiate over.
Last thing, because I do not want you and I to dissect what was in 2024. Yeah. We're looking forward, and we're going to be issues driven, regardless of who's sitting in the White House. But I have one more question to ask, and I'm asking this question based on the 2024 presidential race. primarily based on a lot of the conversation I heard students share with me. And I want your opinion. And if you don't feel like sharing your opinion, that's fine too. Now you know that you can pass. But I was about to mention his name. I'm glad I stopped myself. So I'm thinking of a student in my head who said, the Democrats keep taking us. And this particular student meant Black people, not just us as a population. Sorry. He said, the Democrats keep taking us for granted, as if we can't think, as if we can't see for ourselves, and then make a different decision. What are your thoughts on a statement like that?
I feel like in what that person's kind of trying to say is the Democrats talk a lot about we're going to change this, we're going to change that, we're going to change this. And it all sounds good, but whenever like it's time to show the plan for it and you kind of read the fine print, it's kind of like okay. And I feel like at least Donald Trump, he tends to just say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And it's kind of more blunt. And the Democrats kind of have a way of sugarcoating it. So I can see where that student is coming from, where they take us for granted, but I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that.
No worries. No worries.
Yeah.
No, like I said, we weren't going to dissect 2024. I do think there should come a time where, let me just say this, I hope. I hope that there comes a time where both parties, but more so Democrats, I'm just going to say it, really take a look at the way they've approached different groups of people. And they take a look at what they call telling those people the truth, as opposed to others. I think all entities are creative with their messaging, and that creativity could be discerned as being mistrustful and not telling the truth here and there. But I think you can levy that at both. But with regards to the Democrats, I really do hope that moving forward, they re-envision things, and they truly go back to listen to the people that they claim that they are rooting for and speaking for and fighting for. Now let's leave 2024, like for real back there. We're excited about the summit. We're excited about the fact that it's 2 days this time around instead of 1 day. There's going to be a pitch competition. We want all ideas that students have with regards to social impact campaigns in their communities, but especially as it aligns with the 4 themes that we're talking about. And without giving everything away, I know for me, it is almost impossible not to think about how, when we look at the end of 2024, and I believe it happened in December, where unfortunately there was the killing of a healthcare CEO, United Healthcare. I think his name is Brian Thompson. And it's almost a converging of these issues that we put together in October of 2024, and then December, we see healthcare, gun violence converge in this really it's a tragic incident, but and honestly, my sympathies go to the family of the CEO. It does. But I read stuff online, you read stuff online, and the reception of the young person's name is, I believe, is Luigi Mangione, and if I'm mispronouncing it, my apologies. I don't mean to butcher his name. He's gotten a lot of support. He's gotten a lot of support. And I don't think the support is justified. I'm actually going to say that. I typically don't like giving my opinion, but I'm going to give my opinion that I don't think it is justified to support in this way when we're talking about somebody's life. Here's the but. The but is this plethora of stories we've now heard and the issues other people are having with healthcare that is allowing people to sympathize with this young man.
Yeah.
So I look at that happen in December. I look at our themes that we developed in October for the summit in April, and it tells me that as a nation, we're all feeling similarly about a few things. What would you say about that?
I would say 100%. No matter where position, whether you're left or right, I feel like the common working man is feeling the same about this issue. They're honestly calling this man an American hero.
I've seen that. I've seen
Yeah.
that. I've seen
And
that.
I feel like this is just really showing that no matter like where you come from, you could come from small town America or an urban city. We're all dealing with the same thing. And I've been seeing stuff online that's kind of like made me like tick, and it's making me think about the future. People are saying instead of worrying about whether you're left or right, remember we're on the bottom, who's on the top. And even I don't know if you've seen, but Ben Shapiro, he had like a little video thing. I didn't watch it, but I saw it on TikTok. So then I went to it and I just saw the comments. And it's people from all different walks of life, all different parties saying, Ben, I don't like what you said because at the end of the day, you're a multimillionaire. And, I'm a man from small town America whose wife couldn't get the proper cancer treatment that she needed. While this man's making millions and millions and millions. So I feel like this might be a shift in the way America is moving forward. Instead of it being, oh, you're left, you're right, maybe it's, we're at the bottom of the food chain. What are we going to go do moving up,
That hit me when you said that. And I'm curious to see what happens.
Yeah.
You and I both know. I think, I mean, she's so young. But but I think you've been alive enough to see different gun violence tragedies happen, and everybody gets up in arms about them, especially the police brutality shootings that we see periodically. They don't even make news as much as they used to. I don't know if you've noticed that, but they don't make as much news as they used to because everybody gets with each one that happens, you get desensitized towards it.
Yeah.
And your desensitization actually allows you to move on a little faster than the last one and then the last one before that. So to your statement, I'm curious. I really am curious. I think your generation is the one that has the answers for us. I really do. But I also think your generation, dare I say it, it's okay for you not to listen to us. dare I say it? It's okay for you to hear us, sure, but still go with your gut. Because I'm hearing more and more of you say two things. One of the ones that you just said, regardless of what political party you are ascribed to, there's a little bit of a bottom line here. There's them, i.e., those who have got the financial wherewithal to make whatever decisions they want.
Yeah.
And then there's us, those who don't have that financial wherewithal to make whatever decisions they want, because that's what money does, right? It buys you choice. It buys you the freedom of choice. For the most part, right? So I'm curious. When you make that statement, I am curious. What will they do differently, or will they one day become the multimillionaires? And when they become the multimillionaires, do they now realize, it's not really as easy to make those decisions that we were so passionate about in the past?
Yeah.
And then you kind of just follow the footsteps of the others. So I'm curious, but I have so much faith that your generation is the one to turn all of this on its head for us. I really, really do. I of course had planned to throw gosh, a gun violence question at you, an education question at you, and a US economy question at you, but we just talked.
I don't even know like where the time's going.
I don't know where the time went. We just talked. And honestly, if the summit is going to be anything like this, where you get the Julias in the room, we ask them a few questions, we hear what they have to say, they do a beautiful social impact campaign, and they teach us to listen to them. I think it's going to be a successful summit just based on that. I really, really do. So, Julia, as we end this episode, leave our audience with a parting word or short phrase on why you are looking forward to Gen Next 2025.
I am looking forward for the summit for a multitude of reasons. To have conversations like this and to broaden my perspective. You know, I don't really identify myself with either party, so I love to hear different positions. And that's why, to anybody listening, if the application's still out by the time this episode comes out, please apply regardless if you're a Democrat or a Republican, because I feel like we need to hear both sides, because eventually one day your work best friend might be a Republican. Does that mean you're not going to cooperate with them? Like, I feel like we all just need to come together and reduce the polarization of both sides, because at the end of the day, we all got bills to pay. We all have to drive the car, pay the gas. We all have to go to school or not. So yeah, I'm just excited to have the conversation.
Thank you. I love the reduce the polarization. I really, really love that. And I hope that the summit, at least with those of us that find ourselves in the same room, experience that in real time, because it's entirely too polarized to the point that I don't think we're being authentic with each other anymore about what we really think. Julia, you are amazing. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. And to those listening and watching, how can you not love this? Look at the chocolate. Listen. Look at the chocolate. Hers is kind of like shining a whole lot more than mine. Like she's gleaming, and I love it. It's the youth. You got youth on your side right now, girl. But
And black girl sunscreen.
okay, okay. They listen. We should get them as a sponsor for this episode now, while you're at it. So thank you for tuning into I Love My HBCU ? This has been a special episode, as you've heard. We are looking forward to hosting almost 300 students at this year's GenerationNext Thought Leader Summit 2025. To find out more, please visit our website at ilovemyhbcuyou.com. There is still room for you to join us April 29th and April 30th, where you'll hear brilliant students like Julia discourse on those 4 crowdsourced national topics that matter to them. They're going to be engaging in a pitch competition with micro grants, absolutely, and lead your own social impact campaign and network with change agents like yourself. If you are a Black college student attending any university in the United States of America with a desire to impact your world in a meaningful way, you should find yourself at the summit, Baltimore City, Maryland, April 29th and April 30th. Yours in HBCU love. See you next episode. Julia, thank you.
No problem.
You've been listening to I Love My HBCU ? Let's keep the conversation going as we share our stories and encourage more practical support of HBCUs, whilst of course holding each other accountable. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for the latest episodes. Until next time, love and lift your HBCU.